Well, Owen Jones has really outdone himself this time, and that's saying something. His latest YouTube spectacle, a 25-minute tirade that could frankly bore the pants off of a mannequin, has offered his unique take on the Hamas terrorist attacks on October the 7th. Now, let me paint you a picture for those not in the know. The Israel Defense Force compiled a 43-minute horror show depicting Hamas's barbarity, with much of the footage courtesy of Hamas's own camera work on GoPros on their heads, mobile footage live streaming from dead grandmothers' Facebook accounts, you name it, it happened. Media boards and others, they get an invite to this premiere by the Israeli ambassador and the embassy itself. Now, some reckon it's a bit of a PR stunt for Israel's ground campaign in Gaza, and to that I say, oh, please, let's cut to the chase about what this actually is about. Israel isn't just spinning a yarn here, they're learning from the grim pages of history. Picture this, right? Hours after 1,200 Jews are slaughtered and others are held hostage, the streets of Western capitals are, as you well know now, teeming not with sympathisers for the victims, but with a fan club for Hamas themselves, complete with their own twisted cheerleading for anti-Semitism. Now, Israel's playing the long game here, making sure that the truth is out before the revisionists start their dance. And boy, did they start their dance. A lesson learned, no doubt, from the post-Holocaust era. Now, let's talk about the good people of Gaza, right? They ticked the Hamas box in 2005's election, the only election that they've had, more enthusiastically than the Germans did for the Nazis in 1932. And then, as if to rub salt in the wound, they're out there partying on the streets as their new heroes parade hostages like it's a carnival float. Let's not kid ourselves, right? Gazans, people in Gaza, Palestinians, they knew exactly what they were voting for. And then there's this disturbing scene of hostages being handed over to the Red Cross. The crowd's reaction is nothing short of chilling. It's a stark reminder that when someone shows you their true colours, you better damn well pay attention. And if you find yourself cheering along as an elderly Jewish woman is dragged from her captors to a charity van, it's time to take a long, hard look in the mirror. The only thing that Palestine needs freeing from is Hamas. Owen Jones, in his infinite wisdom, seems to think that the footage of dead Israeli babies actually needs a deliberate stamp from Hamas to count, as if these killings were akin to some awkward misfire at a firing range. The reality, though, is that Hamas stormed into Israel, tore through communities, kibbutzes, and left a trail of death that included everyone, including men, women, children, elderly, pets. And to brush this off as a whoopsie is a bit like comparing a massacre to sending an embarrassing text message after one too many drinks. And then there's the Jones masterstroke, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, that some Israelis simply just got caught up in a crossfire. He even dredges up a debunked story about partygoers being gunned down by an Israeli helicopter.
Now, to be clear, you should still hold Hamas responsible for civilians killed by the reckless firing of bullets, just as I would hold Israeli forces responsible for civilian deaths caused by the reckless firing of bullets. This is about establishing the full nature of the attack. How many died from crossfire or indeed Israeli forces repelling the Hamas invasion? Now, Israeli newspaper Haaretz has said that an IDF combat helicopter fired at Hamas, but also hit some revelers fleeing the Nova Festival. Haaretz has said there are two known events where Israeli civilians were killed due to Israeli fire.
But here's the thing. Survivor accounts and online footage tell a different story about the murder of those at a so-called peace festival, one that doesn't feature any impromptu air shows by the Israelis. Jones isn't completely off his rocker. He doesn't outright deny that Hamas committed atrocities, but I'm afraid he's a poster boy for the willfully blind, planting seeds of doubt where there should be none. He's clamouring for more evidence from Israel, demanding it, champing at the bit. Beheaded babies, raped women, intentional child killings. He wants more.
Now, we see photos of bodies of children with their faces blurred. Again, horrible enough to see. If they had been intentionally targeted by Hamas, that's not filmed. You do see, for example, on the other hand, a family dog being shot dead. Now, again, this isn't to say that none of this happened. It's just not in the footage which has been provided by the Israeli authorities. Now, maybe Hamas and other fighters didn't film such atrocities on their GoPros or didn't release that footage.
It's like he's watching a horror movie and complaining about the lack of gore for authenticity. The man's hypocrisy knows no bounds. Remember when he was assaulted in 2019, or at least claimed he was assaulted? There was no footage, but we're supposed to take his word for it. Yet when it comes to Israeli victims, suddenly he's a stickler for video evidence. As well, during the #MeToo movement, he was all about believing survivors. He apparently, that doesn't extend that generosity to Israeli victims of Hamas. It's like he's saying #MeToo, but not for the Jews. So where do you draw the line? Jones's commentary on the footage is like critiquing a snuff film for narrative coherence. It's real life, Owen. This isn't on Netflix. What drives a man to trivialise such horror for a bit of YouTube fame and clicks? The man is sick in the head when it comes to this. He is morally bankrupt when it comes to this. Maybe we shouldn't be all that surprised, right? In his youth, Owen Jones reportedly, according to this Twitter user, went down an Israel-themed rabbit hole in which he was removing references to suicide bombers being a war crime and felt at pains to point out that Hamas were largely popular for their charity and welfare work. Lovely lads, I'm sure they'll get the pride of Britain at some point. Anyone that says that he could have changed his mind by now, well, I'm doubtful he's changed his mind. Of course, I don't know that. But he says himself that the same old nasty student politics that he once had are championed by far too many in the culturally powerful left-wing media. And he says that he hasn't changed his mind. In 2022, he tweeted that, saying he hasn't changed his mind on certain issues, so we can only assume he hasn't changed his mind on these issues too. In closing, Owen Jones is a prime example of someone who's built a career on divisive identity politics and has a knack for ignoring the elephant in the room unless it fits his narrative. The culture war between those who we've imported here who do not share Western values and those who supposedly share a penchant for Owen's identity politics on everything from women's rights, trans rights, gay rights, you name it, racial equality. They don't give a jot about that kind of thing. But he doesn't care. It doesn't fit the narrative. He's quick to embrace any cause that strokes his ego and gets him some clicks. Yet he turns a blind eye to undeniable atrocities. It's a classic case of selective outrage, and it's high time that we call out this for what it is, a disgraceful double standard. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.